Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage Eitel.
All right. My name is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I do put the fun in funding. So super excited to be with you. You, my friends, are in the right place if you want the information that you need to make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. And I know the news out there right now is super scary, and it's their job to scare you. It really is. I mean, the headlines are nuts. Everybody's, Chicken Little is running up and down the street yelling, the sky is falling. And if you've listened to this show for any period of time, you know that's not my belief. And we're going to give you the data to support that and encourage you along the way. So in addition to all of that, we are going to cover your questions. You are encouraged, as always, to shoot those questions to us. The Anytime hotline is 561-291-8569. That's 561-291-8569. Or visit the website, www.mr.mortgage, never a .com, just mr.mortgage, and you can submit your questions there. And also, too, the Facebook page is a lot of fun. We're getting some good interactions going on Facebook, and we're always dumping the data and the articles that we use during the show there, so you can read them for yourselves. And that you will find at the Mr. Mortgage Show on Facebook. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to dive right in. And I know it was another super interesting week in mortgage and real estate news. We've got the Federal Reserve trying to tame inflation and raising rates, and now they're saying they're not sure they're going to be able to soft land this thing. And I don't know about you, but I just don't have a lot of faith in the Fed Reserve at this point. I mean, they've waited too long to react, and now they're trying to overreact without causing a major recession. But I want to encourage you to do one thing, if anything, and that's read past the headlines. The headlines are super clickbaity right now. It's all doom and gloom, end of the world, and it's super frustrating, especially for me, because when I read these, I know the rest of the story, and it's driving me crazy. So I pulled one yesterday. This came out Friday from the National Mortgage Press, and that's not the National Enquirer. That's a real industry channel that distributes some good quality news. It's not, one-headed alien baby born to, virgin nun. These are real stories and real articles. And this one was titled Q1 2022 Sets New Foreclosure High. And the subheading was Foreclosure Activity Rose in All 50 States to Their Highest Numbers in 2 Years. And on the surface, right, that information, that headline, coupled with the local television news telling you everybody's priced out of the market. Everybody's running a series on that right now. And the financial news telling you, stock market was back up a little bit on Friday. But, for the most part, the last several weeks, it's been down. Rates are up. The Fed is going to kill inflation one way or another, and we may be the victims of this. So with all that news, if you hear that, foreclosures have surged to their highest level in 2 years, that's the headline. That's scary. Especially, I drove in this morning and saw, $4.60 gas. And that's the cash price. That's the new thing too, right? The price out on the billboard is the cash price. But my point is, if you take all that news that's already swimming around in your head and you're super frustrated, and it doesn't matter Democrat, Republican, who you voted for, this is all real life, everyday stuff that's super frustrating. And then you throw a headline in there like that, you think, oh my God, this is over. This is what everybody's been talking about. The market's going to crash. I want to dig deeper into this article, and I'm going to put this on the Facebook page. But this is my point when I say read past the headlines for the opportunity. And I'm not changing any of this data. You'll see it on the Facebook page. It goes on to say a total of 78,271 U.S. properties had a foreclosure filing during Q1, up 39% since the fourth quarter of 2021 and 132% year over year. Now, if you continue to read, the next sentence says March alone saw 333,333 properties, which is interesting that we're on that finite 3 number. But nonetheless, foreclosure filings up 29% from February and 181% year over year. So you read that and you think, my God, Mark, I've read past the headlines. Foreclosures have doubled. And I'm not going to continue to read. I'm going to skip through and get to the point of this message that I'm trying to share with you. There is one other thing. They say the states with the highest foreclosure rates were New Jersey. This is interesting. 1 in every 792 properties. Ohio, 1 in every 991. South Carolina, 1 in every 1,081. And Nevada, 1 in every 1,090. So what? 1 in 1,100 homes. So you start to see the point. It's not as scary as that headline led you to believe. But then you go farther into the article. Foreclosed properties had been in the foreclosure process for an average of 917 days. Let me read that again for the people in the back. 917 days they were in the foreclosure process. Folks, this is foreclosure activity that was started before the pandemic. That you remember, the moratoriums were put in place and banks couldn't foreclose. Landlords couldn't collect rent. Landlords couldn't evict. So all we're talking about here is housekeeping from 2.5, 3 years ago. This isn't as a result of high gas prices. This isn't a result of inflation. This is not a result of the Federal Reserve moving the interest rates from 3s to 5s. I mean, the mortgage rates as a result of the financial environment that we're in. None of this has anything to do with those other points. This is old foreclosure activity that was stalled during the pandemic. And take all those points into consideration. Nobody was going through foreclosure because of the moratorium. So naturally, now that we're out of that cycle, of course they're going to go up. There's a ton of housekeeping that has to be done in the foreclosure space. So I share all that just to encourage you to read past the headline. And here's where I find this article is super cool. And this should have been the headline. Delinquencies. Now, delinquency is the leading indicator of a foreclosure. That's when the person starts to get in trouble. They've missed a payment. They're late on payments. They may have a rolling 30, which means you missed January's payment, but then you made February's. Well, February's was applied to January, so you're still 30 days late. And people go through that cycle making that payment from that point forward, but that 30-day late rolls with them indefinitely. So delinquencies dropped in January to their lowest rate since 1999. And again, I'm going to read that one more time for anybody who didn't hear me. That article, the very same article that says Q1 2022 sets new foreclosure high. 3 pages into the article, delinquencies, which is new foreclosure activity or the leading indicator of it, dropped to their lowest level since January of 1999. So I share all that because the headlines are meant to get your attention. They're meant to scare you. They're meant to encourage you to click the headline or stay tuned through the commercial break with the news, and they're going to get to the rest of the story on the other side. That headline was completely misrepresenting the data in the article. The number one foreclosure state saw 1 in roughly 800 homes in foreclosure. And the new foreclosure activity has dropped to levels we have not seen since 1999. You couple that with everybody's equity position and the information that I share on that Facebook video about why I don't think we're in a housing bubble bursting scenario. And I believe for the time being that housing remains healthy. So if you have any questions regarding that, I encourage you to touch base with me offline. I would love to dive deep with you. But you hear that music, that means we're going to jump into a very short break. And just like the news that I mentioned on TV, we're going to encourage you to stick with us through this 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we're going to cover your questions, and we're going to encourage you to send us those questions to 561-291-8569. That's 561-291-8569. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Hey, it's Mark Eitel here, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me talk about the valuation tool that we use in our lending practice almost daily. It's not quite an appraisal, but it's way more accurate than one of those online estimates. And we're happy to run one of those reports for you at no charge. Just visit freevaluereport.org. That's freevaluereport.org. Give us a little information about the property, and we'll be happy to send you your report. That's freevaluereport.org.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now, 561-291-8569.
All right, we are back, and thank you for indulging me in that little rant. I hope you found that informative. And again, I encourage you to visit the Facebook page because all of that information is going to be there. So, long story short, I do not think that we have any near-term downside in real estate, certainly not because of the cost of money. So hopefully that shed a little bit of light on it, that article that I shared. And again, I just find it fascinating. Mortgage delinquencies are down, the lowest level since 99. So if that alone doesn't encourage you, there's a lot more data on there. So, and listen, I'm not a proponent of buying real estate or refinancing real estate for everyone. Don't mistake what I'm saying. But for a lot of people, it is a wise choice. And I just encourage you not to get scared into inactivity because it's super easy to convince yourself not to do something. It's hard to find the willpower to get into the gym, to not eat that second slice of pizza, or maybe skip that third beer at the barbecue. This is no different. It's scary even in the best of times. So any questions on that, I encourage you, give me a call. And the Anytime hotline is 561-291-8569. 561-291-8569. That rings here in the studio when Dom and I are doing the show, or it pushes to my office during the week, 561-291-8569. And speaking of people who have called the hotline during the week, I just wanted to give a quick shout out and recognize a couple people that I've talked to this week. I talked to Kim and Aaron, and they're buying a 4-unit property as an investment, and they're going to use it for their retirement. So super exciting for them. And she found it on her own. She bicycled up and down the streets, and the property was vacant, and they got a real estate agent to get on the phone and find the owner, and they put that deal together just based on their own ambition. So super excited for them. Glenn gave me a shout, and he was curious about buying after foreclosure. And yes, there are programs out there. Some immediately after foreclosure, all the way up to, you've heard it stays on your credit report for 7 years, but it doesn't mean that you have to wait 7 years to get a mortgage. There are a lot of loan programs out there for people who have had foreclosures, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have around that. I talked to Andrew, super cool guy, really enjoyed speaking with him, and we talked about the lease option program that I shared last week. And I'm happy to deep dive that as well if you have additional questions. Diana called. She had questions regarding a debt consolidation loan. Mark actually called too. And we talked about,